Welcome to Focus on Tomorrow. I'm your host, DJ Jackson. I would like to begin by telling you what Focus on Tomorrow is. Focus on Tomorrow is a non-profit located in Chicago, Illinois. You can find us on the web at www.focus-on-tomorrow.org, or you can email us at info@focus-on-tomorrow.org. Thank you for tuning in. Today we have our guest. I would like to remind everybody that this is a live call-in show. You can call in at 312-738-1060. All right. I would like to begin today with our guest, Alderman Rod Sawyer of the 6th Ward. How are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I would like to begin with my first question. It is, why did you become an alderman?
I started when I was a child. For those that don't know, my father was also served as alderman of the 6th Ward, and when I was younger, I was always at his side, and I was really intrigued by how people were able to really receive my father when he was able to help people. And it really got to me that the aldermen were able to help people in their personal way, and I really liked that. So as I got older and I matriculated through school, and I always stayed back in my community and found a way where I can help people on a personal level. And I thought, what better way to do that than to follow my dad's footsteps and become an alderman?
Yeah. All right. Was your dad took over for Mayor Harold Washington after his passing? Did growing up and seeing your dad as a temporary mayor sort of inspire you?
Actually, it was quite a difficult time. I was an adult at the time. I was in law school, but our families were always been we were very close. But during that time, it was a very tumultuous time. A lot of was going on after Mayor Washington's death, and I didn't probably get to see my dad as much as I would have liked to, or much as I was used to. I was always a fixture at the political office, and with him becoming mayor, it was a lot different. You know, he was always on the move, and we did not get a lot of time to spend with each other as we normally did. So it was a bit of a change.
Yeah. Would you ever think of running for mayor?
That's not a decision. I think that's up to me. I enjoy what I'm doing right now. I'm living a dream. If it did ever come, I don't think it would be my decision. It would be the people's decision. And if they felt that it was something that I should do to serve, then who am I to argue with that?
Yeah. All right. How would you describe the violence in Chicago?
It's unexplainable. I mean, really, what we have now is unprecedented levels of violence, and even though the numbers aren't as high as they were maybe 20 years ago, the effect of it is much more immediate and much more severe than it was in the 90s. I was around and I was working on some gang truce summits in the 90s when we had murder rates approaching 1,000. Even now, where we're having murder rates in the 500 mark, which is about half of what they were then, we're seeing violence in areas where we did not see violence before. In neighborhoods that were useful, peaceful, and quiet, now we're seeing some instances of violence in them. So people are reacting differently because they're not used to it. Previously, the violence was confined, quite honestly, to certain areas of the city where there were more public housing, for example. It was concentrated in certain areas which I thought was bad, with areas of poverty and things like that. That's where the violence was, which was bad. Now it's become more spread out to different communities, which is also bad.
I mean, yes,
yes.
Everywhere.
It's everywhere.
At this point, yes. In 2014, you had the idea of a city jobs program that would be routed through the aldermen's offices, and then from there you would give the jobs out as the alderman.
Well, yes. A couple of years ago, someone had asked me about what we can do to help, combat violence and to provide some opportunities for youth, and I suggested that all 50 aldermen have issues as it relates to cleanup in the wards, particularly vacant lots in the wards. So my proposal was to allow the aldermen to have some discretionary picks for youth in the neighborhood And I suggested that the aldermen make the picks because the aldermen are the front line as far as elected officials go. They're the ones that have direct contact with the citizens. So I would suggest that the aldermen do it because they would know who to deal with, and who were the youth that may be on the bubble, on the verge of maybe doing something antisocial or not. So if we were allowed to go into communities and pick up youth that may have been troubled or have some questionable decision-making abilities, we can get them before they get into some real trouble, provide an opportunity for jobs, show them real work ethic, and get them some money in their pockets. I was immediately ridiculed about it, saying that I wanted some new patronage army, but here we are 2 years later, and I just met the youth that are cleaning up in my ward right now. We didn't pick them, and they're from all over the city. I had one gentleman that was from the 6th Ward that I met yesterday that came in our cleaning crew. But now they're doing exactly that. They got crews of 10 going around cleaning up lots throughout the city in different wards, and it is a benefit. We get our lots cleaned up. We get youth an opportunity to learn about work ethic and working and getting them paid. And I'm sure at the end of the day, they will be tired and going home to go to sleep.
All right. Do you believe that instead of finding people from all across Chicago, if they had actually gone to the alderman itself, there would be a bigger impact in how the youth are being treated with jobs and, lowering crime?
I felt that it could have been a slightly more impactful statement if we were allowed to get youth from our community to clean up their own community. I think it's important that they learn, that when you throw something on the ground, somebody has to pick that up. It doesn't just magically disappear or it takes care of itself. When you disrespect your community by littering, you do something against yourself. You're saying that you're okay with living in a filthy, dirty society, in a dirty community, and that should not be tolerated. And I felt that if you were able to clean up in your own neighborhood, you could really feel a sense of pride and ownership in your neighborhood to say that, hey, I've dealt with something. So when somebody's around you and they throw something on the ground, you're going to feel a lot differently about it because you're paid to clean that up. And you're going to tell that person that you're disrespecting our community, don't do that. So I thought it would have been a little bit more impactful had we had people from the community working in their respective communities.
Yeah, I mean, since the jobs didn't come to, you weren't able to get people from the communities to come out and learn what they're doing is wrong. Do you think there's another way to go about solving this issue?
Well, the situation as it is now, I think that the youth that are there did understand, because I did have a conversation with them when I first met them, and they came to the office and they wanted to ask what I did and what the role of an alderman is, and I also explained to them how I felt that their positions are important because they're ambassadors to my office and ambassadors to the community, and our responsibility is to keep, one of my major responsibilities is to keep the ward clean. It doesn't sound glamorous, but that's what we do. I consider myself one of the janitors of the ward of the city of Chicago. But I take that with pride, and I'm proud to do that. And when we have people there to clean up and help us, it's very, very important that they understand that they're doing a community service. They're benefiting the community at large, which is the city of Chicago. So even if they don't live in the respective community, they understand the importance of it.
All right. I see we have a caller.
Excuse me.
Caller, go ahead.
Good evening, gentlemen. I was listening to what you people were saying, and a lot of times when I be out and about, say if I have a can or something, I hold that in my hand till I pass by a garbage can. Unfortunately, in some neighborhoods, they don't have enough bins they could throw in. And when you look at some of these mothers are the first teachers for a lot of children. And it's just like, it's hard to explain. Some of them got that thuggish or gangster type of attitude, and they don't care about maintaining where they live at. You got animals that won't take a dump where they sleep at, but yet these mothers, They teach their children how to be so thuggish and don't care about a neighborhood and go about the business of tearing things up instead of trying to maintain it. Don't try to make it no worse at all. They don't care because that seems so hip, that's so cool to tear up something. It's always easy to tear things up than to build. That's where it always has been.
That's a good point of how people are actually being treated at their houses and told how to do things that are wrong.
Yeah, the caller is absolutely correct. Parents are the first teachers that children have. And I've noticed this. I noticed the other day, I was driving down the street. I was sitting at a stoplight, and I'm watching a mother on her cell phone waiting at the bus stop. And the children were playing, just talking with, playing with each other. And one of them had a bag of chips they were finishing. And the child immediately proceeded to ball the bag up, throw the bag onto a vacant lot behind them when there was a garbage can right in front of them, literally inches away from where they were standing. But yet the mother was oblivious. She was on the phone. She did not do anything to correct that child, to say that it's not okay to throw litter on the ground. Here's a garbage can right in front of you, use it. But you're right. If we don't take responsibility for ourselves, we're lost as a community. I got a call today, for example. A lady has suggested to me at my office and stated to one of my the assistants at the office that I get people to clean up in front of other people's houses. I thought that was the most ridiculous statement that someone can make to me. I mean, if we cannot take care of the 25 feet in front of our respective houses, it doesn't cost anything. It's free. You don't have to pay to clean up. Nor should I have to use our resources to clean up in front of this person's house because it has trash in front of it. We need to be responsible for our own, and it would make my job a whole lot easier and much more effective. I can really get the areas that really need attention as opposed to focusing on things that people can do on their own.
Yeah. It's also sends the message of, people will always clean up after you if, you have people going in front of their houses and cleaning up. Yeah,
I have a statement for that. I don't know if I can say it on TV, but maybe I can. It's like, you have somebody that can wipe you behind for you. If you think somebody's going to do it, you'll let them keep doing it, because that's just the epitome of being lazy. But I believe that if we take it upon ourselves to make an effort to clean up in front of our respective properties, whether it's residential, commercial, if you own it, that 25 feet is yours. You take care of it, you clean up in front of it, you maintain it, then everything looks a lot better once everybody takes personal responsibility to do their fair share.
Yeah, all right. Speaking of this topic of, people, all right, we have a caller. Caller, go ahead.
I just had to mention this as well. You have people out here, I'm trying to keep it delicate as possible. You have people out here, when it comes to taking care of their biological needs, they don't care, they won't take the time to find a restroom. And I know things is hard out here in the street sometimes because places like McDonald's and other places don't really want to. Let me hit you something. Those places, you can use the restroom. You don't have to buy them because Pat Quinn, when he was the governor, he did sign this law in effect saying that they cannot tell you can't use the restroom unless you buy something. Because that's against the law now, and it has been that way. And a lot of times, people don't care. They do their business right out there in the street, especially we be on those L platforms. I can't understand. Why would they wait to get on the elevator and do their business inside that car? I don't understand it. And sometimes it may be a restroom a matter of a few feet away.
Well said. I can't say anything about that.
Huh? That was a good point. But that also goes to the whole education of how people were raised.
Absolutely.
How were people raised? What situations were they in? And we see today that education is being treated like nothing, and it's a serious issue right now. Mm-hmm. the CPS students in CPS might not even go to school in September because of the budget that's going on and how people are treated in schools.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on education as a whole?
Well, I sit on the education committee and with the city council, but it's frustrating because we have no direct control over CPS. So it is something that we need to address because what you stated is very real. If we don't resolve a budget or get a budget done for the benefit of education for the state of Illinois, which would include the city of Chicago, there very well may not be school starting in the fall. We don't have money sufficient to continue operations for CPS without either borrowing more money or some infusion from the state of Illinois. I know the representatives are coming back. They're going back down tomorrow. I was with my representative today, and he stated that they're going down with some plans, but we don't know whether the governor's going to approve them or not. And it's really serious. It's more than just rhetoric at this point.
All right. I see we have a caller. Caller, go ahead.
Yes, good evening. How you doing? I've been listening to the conversations and to what Joe has been saying to you guys. But listen, every ward office have brooms, rakes, garbage bags. They will give you gloves. They will give you form a block club. And listen, we cannot, sometimes you got to do for others what others want to do for their own self. But yet still, when you form that block club, people gets the hint. You go door to door. But you have people who drive through the neighborhoods, just throw things out the window. They park, they come to visit somebody, and they dump their mess right out there in the street. But once a week, we clean our block up. We try to keep the block nice. If you're elderly, you're not able to do certain things, people cut your lawn and help out. But see, that's the problem. People don't want to help. If you lay around and you just only cutting your grass, cleaning out in front of your house, and thinking that you're doing something, you need to open your eyes and look around. Everybody else, you sticking out like a sore thumb. So what the thing is to try to do is to get others to do the same thing. You just can't sit up in front of your house and just say how my eyes looking and don't say nothing to no one else. Form a block club, form a committee, and you go door to door, and you get help. That way, if you don't have a lawnmower, we will cut it. But in return, you get out, help sweep, you help do something. That's the only way to keep the block clubs of your areas clean. Try to keep it clean. But like you say, so many people don't care what you do. They want you to do for others. It's always people that don't want to do anything. They always want others to do for them. Well, what do you do? What can you do about that? So if you want your neighborhood looking nice, do something to do that. A can of paint goes a long way. Thank you. Let me get out there. Thanks for taking the call. Let me hear your response.
All right. That caller was asking about, how are we going to get to help? How are we going to clean up ourselves and then not help others clean up themselves too?
Yeah. Well, it's going back to the concept of neighborhoods. Growing up, one thing I always tell people, and when I talk about this often, is the things that concern me most, and the calls I get more in my office probably than any other call, are neighbor-to-neighbor conflicts. That means you don't really know your neighbor. If you were asking me to interject in a conflict between your next-door neighbor and yourself, you don't know your neighbors. And that's a big problem in my opinion. I think if you don't, at the minimum, know the people that live on either side of you, they're not the problem, you're the problem. So we need to get back to neighborhoods, like the caller stated. I'm a big proponent of block clubs. We help form them anytime people ask. And we get a lot of pushback. People don't want to. They don't want to. Sometimes they don't want to get involved. They don't want to knock on a door and ask who the neighbors are. And that's, again, going toward the root of the problem. We don't know the people that live on our block. And if you don't know them, why do they care if they're going to rob you or not? Because you don't know them. So, I believe that the more familiar you are with people on your block, that, the nicer people become, or the people that don't want to get in, don't want you to know them, they'll leave because, you're asking too many questions and they're going to want to know what's going on. So with that, neighbors, be neighborly. That's what it's all about.
Be helpful to one another.
That's right.
Right. On this topic of neighbors and neighborly love, a lot of people do have problems connecting with their neighbors because of, they're scared of one another. They don't know who they are. They could be anybody, How do you go out there and help people, go out and actually meet their neighbors when these conflicts occur to you?
Well, someone has to take the first step. I mean, it's really just as simple as knocking on the door. Hello, my name is Rod, and I live next door. How are you? See you just moved in. Do you need anything? Here's my number. And it progresses from there. For example, my neighbors are very close to me. I consider neighbors, neighbors is one of the terms that's used in the Bible. And I consider that a very, almost bigger than a friend. This is someone that's next to you that's going to be there long term, usually. So that's somebody you want to be able to have a good relationship with. I like to think I have a very good relationship with my neighbors, matter of fact, my whole block, but in particular my next door neighbors, because you want them to look out for you. You want to look out for them. You want them to know who your family is. And I mean, in some instances, exchange keys to your house.
Yeah.
I mean, it's somebody you should trust. So I think that until someone takes the first step, it really becomes really difficult to, be good neighbors unless someone steps up and does that. And, it should be you or me to make that step.
All right. So neighbors are something that we should take care of.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'm going to segment back to this conversation we were having on education before this last caller. Do you believe that we should have an elected board of education, or should we have an appointed board of education?
Well, currently, City of Chicago is the only district in the state of Illinois that has a fully appointed school board. I've been consistent since I've been on the council, asking, fighting for, protesting for an elected representative school board. I believe that it's something that is just fair, although I will caution people that, once we get, if and when we get an elected school board, we're injecting another level of politics into the school system. That means you have to be well organized to get the people that you want on the board, because other people are going to also be well organized and well funded to put the people that they want on their school board. So although, it's interesting when people ask for that, and I've been a supporter and I'm continue to be a supporter of it, be careful about what you ask for, because you just very well may get it. And, you're injecting another level of politics. That means there's going to be more money in school board elections. You're going to be out, make sure that you're well organized and getting those that truly care about school reform and highly efficient and highly trained school operators, so that we have students that will learn well and be the ones that are leaders of tomorrow, like you and others that really benefit from the school system. You want to make sure that we get quality schools so we can have quality students.
All right. If this elected school board comes with so many flaws and the appointed school board is filled with flaws currently, what would be another alternative to the two?
Well, I mean, it's going to be one or the other. The alternative may be some sort of hybrid, where the mayor, for example, picks certain members of the school board, and the remaining members are elected either at large or in districts, however they decide to do it. But again, this is going to be part of a longer conversation. I believe we're going to get to some sort of elected school board. It may be the hybrid I just discussed, but there is going to be something done. I believe in the House, it was a vote overwhelmingly supporting the elected representative school board for the city of Chicago.
The State House?
The State House.
Yeah, right.
It's been stalled in the state Senate right now. It has not come up for a vote yet. So, but I believe that those of good nature and those that are concerned, they should call their state senators to let them know that they want an elected representative school board for the District of Chicago. And I think it will be important, and it's going to be up to us to make sure that we get it so we can get it done right.
All right. Any last thoughts on any of the topics we just discussed?
Well, basically, I'm just happy. Again, thank you for allowing me an opportunity to come here. These are all important topics. Education is something extremely important to, the city of Chicago that we, since there's been such inadequacies in the past about our funding, we need to get that right. We need to be adequately funded so the schools on the north side of Chicago are just as the same as schools on the south and west side of Chicago. There should be equality in the funding. I think that every child that has equal opportunity will all do well if given the opportunity to do so. But one other thing, again, this concept of being neighbors is just far too important. Be a good neighbor. Clean up after yourselves. Look out for one another. I think that will go a long way in the city of Chicago if we did that.
All right. I would like to thank you for coming on, Alderman Sawyer. I would like to remind everybody that we are Focus on Tomorrow, and Focus on Tomorrow is a nonprofit located in Chicago, Illinois. You can find us on the web at www.focus-on-tomorrow.org, or you can email us at info@focus-on-tomorrow.org. I would like to say thank you all for allowing me to have this experience. This is our last show, Focus on Tomorrow's last show for the term. My name is DJ, and I'm your host, and thank you.
Thank you.